Ladies and gentlemen, Digital and Risk Management in Insurance 2023, entering the new world 4.0, technology beyond imagination. First session, Insurtech Unleashed, navigating the evolving digital insurance frontier. Please welcome our speakers, Mr. Hugh Terry, CEO and founder of the Digital Insurer, TDI. Mr. Simon Phipps, founder of the Digital Insurer, TDI. And the moderator for this session, Mrs. Karin Azulkarnain, AAJI.
Apa kabar Bapak Ibu? Welcome to DRiM 2023. Can I ask if anybody is here for the first time in DRiM? Can you raise your hand? Yeah, we've got a few first-timers. You're the first time here also, Simon. Welcome everyone. It's great to see many of you come back to DRiM again this year. So for the first topic, we're going to discuss about Insurtech Unleashed, navigating the evolving digital insurance frontier. With me here, I've got two gentlemen, Hugh Terry, welcome back to DRiM, as well as Simon Phipps, for the first time in DRiM. Both of the gentlemen are both founder of the Digital Insurer. Simon Phipps have over 30 years experience across life and health, general insurance, asset management, consulting, as well as startup. And Hugh Terry also have more than 30 years of experience in operation, actuarial, product development, distribution, and business development. And he's currently also the CEO of the Digital Insurer. Welcome, gentlemen, to the stage. Let me set a little context of what we're going to talk about this morning. As we entered the fourth industrial revolution, technology and digital advancement play a very critical role in changing the way we do our business. Technology, digital adaptation play a big part in our business, especially since COVID. This has impacted the way we do things, changes our insurance industry landscape. We heard this morning that the penetration of insurance from digital remains small. So we'd like to hear from you guys, how can we expand and penetrate our market better? And most importantly, it changes our interaction with the customer. We saw this morning as we entered the ballroom how our registration for DRiM have changed. In the past, we have pen and papers registration. This morning, we have face recognition for the first time. So I hope it works for everyone here, that the machine managed to recognize your face as you come into the room. So without further ado, let me hand over the presentation to Hugh and Simon. Here you go.
Thank you very much. It's just wonderful to be back here. I was in Bali last year, and really an opportunity to build on some of the things we were talking about last year. So Salamat Pagi. Right, so what are we going to try and do today? We're going to try and cut through the hype, right? You guys are all practical, we're practical. So let's see if we can get to some practical insights, maybe give you some new ideas and perspectives, and also hopefully an opportunity for you to get to know TDI better. And I'm really pleased that my fellow founder Simon is here as well, so you're going to hear a different voice and some different perspectives. So what we're going to do is talk for about 30 minutes, plenty of time for Q&A, at the end, so please do put your questions in. I'm going to talk about digital, just remind us why it's key for all of us. Simon's going to then come on and sort of tell us why digital transformation isn't so easy, right? And what do we need to do to be successful? We've got a few examples. We'll give you some TDI updates and then go into that Q&A session. We are going to go through slides pretty quickly, so my advice is take the QR code, you can have the slides on your mobile, and then you can study them, because the slides are quite dense and you're not going to get everything from this presentation. So get your phones out, take the QR code. Here, sorry, wasn't on the right one, and you'll be able to access the deck. So QR code's there. It's also on some of the slide headers as we go through as well. So if you have regret because you didn't download it and you want to download it later, there will be opportunities to do so as well. All right, let's get going. So digital, why is it key for all of us? If we ran a poll in the audience here around what you really think about digital, we'd end up with a bell curve. Maybe 20% of people will be huge digital enthusiasts, 20% will be skeptics, and the rest of us are kind of on the fence saying, we know it's here, but tell me how I can really take full advantage of it. And as we go through this session, I'm going to share with you a number of challenges and a number of opportunities. Some of you, when you see these challenges, you'll say they're not challenges, they're opportunities. Others will say, look at these opportunities and say, these are not opportunities, these are challenges, right? And it depends on your personal perspective. But the reality is that we are here in this fourth industrial revolution, right? So if you look at the history of mankind in terms of adoption of technology, it's only really in the last 200 years that things have got going. But now, here, in this fourth industrial revolution, the pace of change is enormous, and the reality is that we, as a species, are increasingly merging with and using technology on a day-to-day basis. And the reality is that those people going forward who are using and able to use technology are going to have better career outcomes than those that don't. And the same also applies to organizations as well. And I think last year, it was great to come together, right? It was just post-COVID, right? And it was an opportunity for people to get together, have a chat and talk. And I think people were probably thinking, hey, we've really accelerated our digital transformation because we've just come through COVID where we had to do that. Now maybe there's time for a pause for breath. And then what happens? Something like ChatGPT comes into public consciousness, and it reminds us that the pace of change is accelerating. I put it as a challenge. It's also a massive, massive opportunity. But it's a challenge for us because technology beyond imagination, right? Who would have imagined ChatGPT? Certainly not your grandparents, probably not your parents. And even ourselves, we look at this technology and say, what are the possibilities that are opened up? And we're only just at the start as well. So a real challenge, because how do we adapt to this pace of change? But obviously a big opportunity. From a technology perspective as well, we've got to move away from saying we're stuck in legacy. It's not a valid excuse anymore. There are technologies available to allow us to, if you like, bolt on more agile, appropriate technologies and manage our legacy technical debt at the same time. Huge opportunity, and you have to be able to do this to be in the game, and it's called bimodal IT. A second challenge, and it was referred to earlier, is about trust, right? We are the ultimate trust product, right? We promise to pay at some future date, but unfortunately, our reputation is not aligned with the product that we serve. So we have low trust with consumers. And then we look around in this digital world and we realize how difficult it is to create trust in a digital world. You see what's happening with social media in places like the US, right? We're going to have to work really, really hard to establish trust. And that needs to be something that's on the agenda at a director level, which is how do you build trust throughout the organization? What do you explicitly need to do to develop trust with consumers? Moving on to the opportunity side, our product is changing. If you look at the honest customer, does the honest customer want to make a claim? Certainly not for a typical insurance risk. Obviously, when they're collecting their proceeds at the end of the policy. They want to do that. But the insurance risk itself, the honest customer doesn't want to make the claim. The honest customer wants support to help reduce and mitigate risk. Massive opportunity for technology, massive opportunity for us to move into a different space that actually helps us to also address some of the trust issues that are inherent in the product that we offer. But we're challenged, and we're challenged by the fact and the reality that we don't really know our customers very well, and we have very, very few touch points with our customers in our traditional models, particularly when we've outsourced some of the distribution. Now we see other industries which have much higher touch points are now able to include insurance as offerings to their customers as well. And this reality of we should be hungry to have conversations with customers. We shouldn't be automating away the human touch. We need to be automating in the human touch so that we can actually engage more with our customers. And think about that a little, and that may affect your business models and how you design those models. Another opportunity is around advisory models. There's a lot of legs left in advisory models. They're not going away in a digital future, but we have the opportunity to improve those models, to move from part-time to full-time, to increase the quality of sale, to increase the persistency of our customers. And we talk about something we call the Omni Advisor, not just providing point-of-sales technology, but also providing tools to give advisors a digital presence, if you like, co-branding, not just the big insurance brand, but the brand of the individual, because the world is going to be personalized in the future. And the insurers that really work out how to do that are going to have very strong advisory sales forces. And those that were here last year, we did the Bezos clip, so we're not going to do it this year. But the reality is, and we heard it earlier as well, customer centricity is what the digital world is all about. And we have historically come from more producer-centric models, and we're still working through how we can get to be more customer-centric. And opportunity-wise, the good news is, and this is some NPS data from Bain Research, which shows that customers do like value-added services. So what I said earlier about the shifting nature of the product, risk mitigation, that ability to offer something extra to the customer that they really want makes a difference in terms of outcomes and how we can engage and increase engagement with customers as well. And of course, health ecosystem models, some have been successful, some are still a work in progress, but those are an example, a classic example now in the industry of how you can increase engagement, how you can help to mitigate risk as well. And just a last one, which I put as an opportunity and a challenge, and there's a lot in here, really around this new competitive landscape and how we at TDI see things really. And we've got a volume and a value pyramid. So the volume pyramid is how we've moved from a physical first, agency-led, broadly speaking, distribution channel to one that is much more structured and layered. And at the bottom you see digital direct, micro-insurance, the ability to sell millions and millions of policies of low value using digital technology. The challenge, of course, is that the value pyramid is the other way up. So all the value, the economic value, the enterprise value that private organizations rightly seek to achieve is still in that physical first world. So we've got to work out how to connect these two extremes. And this is where it's really interesting, and what we call digital first, which is where you're seeing the digital micro players are realizing they're not really developing relationships with customers, so they're going to have to work out how to cross-sell and upsell and actually talk and understand to their customers. The physical first guys are realizing that if they just stay in a physical first world, they're going to lose their customer base over time because the new generation are not thinking and acting in the same way. So you're looking at how you can digitize and truly enable those advisory sales forces. So you see these two competitive dimensions that are going to play out over the next few years. So I hope you enjoyed that as a kind of a bit of a strategic take. These things that I just talked about were here 2 years ago. They're going to be here 2 years from now because they're trends. They're not about hype. They're about the reality of what our industry faces, both from an upside and a downside perspective. So the fourth industrial revolution is here. COVID told us what the future is going to be like. It was a window, and don't forget it, because it's still coming. And the acceleration of AI that we're seeing through things like generative AI and other AI more generally tells us that just thinking you can carry on the same old way is not going to work going forward. And where are we as an industry? Hard to tell really, but I thought I'd share just this little poll that we ran a couple of weeks ago in Singapore. We were at a breakfast meetup with ZA Tech, and it was an ecosystem kind of meetup with insurers, with consultants, with technology players, and they came up with a classic bell curve, almost like the optimist-pessimist thing I was talking about earlier, right? About 25% saying we have momentum, we're confident, about another 25% saying it feels like early days and we're a bit overwhelmed, and then those majority in the middle saying, look, we do know the importance, but we're not entirely sure what we need to do to take full advantage of it. And on that point, I'm going to hand over to Simon, who's actually going to weigh in with why it's hard and tips for success.
Thank you very much, Hugh, and good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. Digital transformation, it's not easy. I think we've already established this morning through the opening remarks and speeches and what Hugh has covered that, and we all know this, it's really important for our future as an industry. But we all know that running a business and changing a business at the same time is hard. And unfortunately, it doesn't get any easier when we bring along digital transformation. So I'm just going to share a few reasons as to why that is, which is on the challenging side, but then also spend a couple of minutes hopefully sharing one or two insights on ways in which we can make our lives a little bit easier and increase the chances of success. So I wonder how many of you in the room recognize this phrase. It's all about the execution. I grew up at the start of my career being told that all insurance strategies are pretty much the same. Actually, we win or fail based on how well we execute. And that used to be the case, right? Every insurer wanted to be one Aviva, one AXA, one AIA, one Aegon, and that's just the A's. And they all wanted to be customer-centric, customer first. But the world has moved on, and that presumption that to win, you need to just focus on primarily the execution in insurance is not true anymore. And the reason that it's not true, in part, and in no small part, is because as consumers, our reference point for what good looks like is no longer just informed by insurance. Our competition for the hearts and minds of consumers is from all the brands that we love and we use day to day. You can see some of them up here, Airbnb, Uber, WeChat, etc., Grab. These companies are redefining our expectations of what good looks like as customers. And they tend to be quite different in the way they're set up. They're not very product-orientated, they're platform-orientated. We could spend an hour talking about that. And they're very customer-centric, as opposed to focused on competitors. Now, this slide is one of our TDI assets. It's a little bit provocative, but I wonder how many of you disagree with where we've placed insurers. As an industry, we do tend to be quite focused on the other insurers and quite focused on making money out of one product and moving on. The real competition for us going forward is these other brands. And the real opportunity for us is these other brands and businesses as well. So that's an important context to this question of digital transformation being hard. And I think another bit of research I wanted to share, coming from McKinsey a couple of years ago, really explains as well why digital transformation is going to be potentially challenging for a lot of insurers. Their research concludes that, on average, companies will lose ground as they digitalize. Most companies in most sectors, including insurance, if they just do lots of digital stuff, they'll end up with their business shrinking. So just because you do digital things doesn't mean you're going to successfully grow. The reason being that what digital does as a sector becomes more digital, is it allows other companies to come in, and it allows customers to move their business to different types of products and different types of service providers. So there's a real threat to all of us that if we don't actually do something different, we just digitalize the same as everybody else, we follow the crowd, other insurers, we're actually not going to grow. And you all want to grow, I'm sure. And their research concluded that with that in mind, the best thing you need to do, and the most important thing you need to do if you want to continue to grow, is to firstly, before you start to digitally transform, step back and think about your strategy for the future in an increasingly digital world, and work out how you're going to stand out from everybody else. If you're just going to copy the rest of the insurers, the likelihood is you're going to shrink your business. So on the left-hand side, you can see here, to compensate for that negative 12% growth that happens across, on average, companies in most sectors, first and foremost, you need a strategy which is going to differentiate you from other insurers. And then, of course, execution is still important. The next best strategy is to fast follow the market, but really, really be good at execution. But you'll see there the net effect is much lower. So I guess another view on this is, and you will all know this, there are so many different ways you can spend money on technology at the moment. You can't afford to spend money on everything. You've got to box clever and decide first what you really want to do as a business to differentiate yourself, and then focus your limited resources on the things that will support that business strategy. So I guess wrapping all that up, what I'm really saying is, in a digital world, strategy beats execution. Okay, you shouldn't just run off and execute like we used to in the past. You've got to think about ways of aligning to how customers' needs are changing, being influenced by non-insurers, and thinking about resetting your strategy to differentiate from the rest. So that's important, but there's another important message that goes with that, which is actually culture eats strategy for breakfast. And just because you've got a reset strategy that's going to differentiate, you can still not succeed when it comes to digital transformation. And there's lots of research out there which is pointing to the fact that many insurance companies are failing to achieve success through digital transformation. This is research from PwC. Over 75% of companies failing to get the results they're looking for, and that's primarily because they don't focus enough on people and cultural change. And there's more proof points out there. This is research from BCG, which again shows that only the companies that have a real focus on changing the culture, as well as doing technology projects, get really sustainable results from digital transformation. So, that's a couple of sort of perspectives, I guess, around this digital transformation challenge. You've got to reset your strategy. You've got to focus on people. I'm going to share with you now a slide that we've not used in a conference before. It's a visual that I'm hoping, and we're hoping, will be helpful for executive teams, CEOs, and board members to understand the journey that they need to go on when it comes to digital transformation. So would appreciate any feedback on this visual I'm going to share in a moment, maybe over coffee later. We'll probably release it as a white paper early in the new year. But what this does is it's showing the return on investment over time from digital transformation. And let me explain this to you. On the y-axis, the vertical, we're looking at ROI, and then on the x-axis, time. Okay? When it comes to digital transformation, you can assume that the time horizon is 3, 5, 7 years, so we're not just talking a few months here. The grey line at the top, cumulative program cost, shows you how cost starts off quite slowly, then perhaps in years 2 and 3 it spikes up quite fast, and then it tends to level off. And then the other line, which starts in blue, shows you that return on investment. And what we're seeing with many insurers around the world is that in the early days, the spend is quite low, and a lot of quick wins are sort of, I guess, capitalized upon to give you quite a good return. So in the first year or so, these programs deliver a good return on investment, and they're not very expensive. But what then happens is you start making, and CTOs start making heavier IT investments, and the opportunity to you utilize quick wins starts reducing, and your ROI becomes negative. And that negative period can last for quite a long time, and you start seeing CTOs and CEOs coming under pressure because they've spent $700 million US globally, and they've only got $100 million US of benefits. The pressure builds, and you get into this period of trough of disillusionment, where people are starting to question whether this is really worth it. And the answer is, you can't not digitally transform, but are you going to be a winner at the end of it, or are you just going to bleed a load of cash? And you can see here this decision period then of fight or flight. Do you cancel your digital transformation program? Are you happy with it as it is, or do you reset it? And I guess you get then some that come through and will win over time, the leaders on ROI. You get the laggards, and unfortunately, you're going to get some that are losers. And I can share with you, based on our research and insights from other research, the majority of insurers around the world are going to be in the laggards or losers camp, not winners. So the question then becomes the $64 million question. Well, what do you do? How do you ensure you're one of the winners and leaders? And we haven't got time for a lot of this, but very briefly, unsurprisingly, because of what I shared just now, if you're going to win on digital transformation long term, you've got to take cultural change seriously. You've got to revisit your strategy and make sure new KPIs are aligned to that new strategy. You've got to have a proper, holistic, programmatic approach to the transformation journey. You must have board-level oversight, and it must be a constant agenda item at the top table. And as Hugh just mentioned, you need to be able to work quickly with IT, as well as not shy away from the big decisions. On the downside, the things not to do, don't let it be just led by technology and technology folk. Don't have just the CTO as your sponsor. Do not just focus on quick wins and short-term results, because that is not what transformation is about. Don't put up with just normal level project management governance when it comes to 3 to 5 year change. And the last one of my favorites, you've got to accept that actually you've got to behave differently as leaders to actually enable a transformation to happen. We used to all think as leaders of the question, why wouldn't we do this ourselves, right? And we used to think the world revolves around the big companies and the senior teams. Those days are gone. If we want to work in the new world, we've got to ask the question, why would we do this ourselves, and be open to working with other players around us. Anyway, Hugh's going to just very quickly now, with that backdrop in mind, just touch on a quick example of innovation success for us. Hugh.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. And not going to go through the whole host of examples, because you can go to sites like the Digital Insurer. You can find an enormous amount of innovation that's going on. We've been running innovation awards for both sides, right? Both insurers and Insurtechs, because both insurers and Insurtechs innovate enormously. A couple of QR codes you can get from the deck there. Really interesting innovation. Year on year, we are seeing the digital transformation coming through. So I don't buy any discussion that says insurance is not transforming. I think it's all about how we can do it sort of better, faster, in a more customer-centric way. But we really enjoy seeing these insights, and the awards are a key part of our own learning about what's going on. And the one I wanted to share with you was actually our winner for Asia this year, which I think is relevant to you guys, and I think you'll find interesting. It was Bajaj Allianz in India, and they presented a really, really well-developed and thought-through chatbot that they've deployed on WhatsApp. So they realized the importance of chat as a new interface and a way of communicating with customers. And then they build into that an enormous array of what I would call microservices to allow the customers to essentially get the information they need really quickly in a medium that is easy for them. If you go to the website, you'll see there's a 10-minute video where they presented the solution, including some demos as well. But these are some of the innovations they've got, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but things like the ability to just deliver a little customized image with an illustration of your value of your policy, the ability to allow customers to converse in the language of their choice. And remember, this is just early days stuff, right? Think about what this is going to be like in a year or two when they've started to introduce generative AI. And think about how customers are going to be changing from using websites to perhaps not even typing, just it will be verbal commands coming into an interface, and the technology will be responding as well. So really, really interesting innovation, very, very effective. They provided lots and lots of proof points as well. The one I'll just pull out is just, the amount of usage they've got there. 0.24 million of their customers are using this technology. This is about getting customer engagement, right? Building relationships in a digital world. There will be other opportunities that will come through from this as well. So really good innovation, just one of many examples, but I felt was a worthy winner for APAC this year. And we've got the finals in December, so we'll see if they win the finals as well. Right, now, quickly we'll just give you a little bit on TDI and updates.
Yeah, please bear with us. We thought some of you in the room might not be as familiar with TDI, so just a couple of minutes on what we're about before we move into the Q&A session. So if you haven't come across us already, then please do take the opportunity to sign up for free to our platform. It's the world's largest digital insurance platform looking to help individuals and companies learn more about how digital's helping our industry for the benefit of customers. This sort of eye visual, there's 3 components to it. On the outer ring, the red bit, we do a lot of content and knowledge and webinars and case studies to help us all understand what's going on in our world. We've then got a thin layer of what we call membership, and then we run something called TDI Academy, which Hugh will come on to in a moment. But with just a quick video clip, just to give you a bit of an overview of what our business is all about. So let's see if this runs.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Hugh. Now let's open the floor for some Q&A. If you do have questions, please raise your hands. And we've got the runner to pass you on the mic. In the meantime, can I ask the committee to put on the Slido QR code so you can also submit your questions through the Slido, please. Any questions? Okay, first question for you, Hugh. What are the key major steps for insurance company to accelerate digitalization? I think we saw earlier from your slide, there's always this issue between the ROI. Everybody wants to invest more, but when can we get the values out of the investment?
Just how tricky that is, and that period of disillusionment that I think occurs for most organizations when they're realizing how much they're spending on technology, and then they're starting to ask themselves, is this going to work or not? It's never too late to reset, but for us it comes back to then saying, look, have you got the right strategy? Have you got the culture in place to drive through? Because you've got to have the confidence that you're going to get a medium to long-term return, because it isn't going to happen overnight. So you've got to have the support of your board, you've got to have your people aligned, and you've got to have the strategy there to push through on a multi-year basis to achieve those results. So it's kind of no silver bullet, but sort of incremental, keeping the course. Or if the course is not there, then you've got to work out how to course correct.
No, I like that. I mean, it resonates very well because a lot of companies are investing, but you mentioned earlier the data show 75% of those investments fail because the people do not take it up, the culture does not support, I saw I'm reading, I think it was Harvard Business Review article saying that when it changed, the leadership changes, sometimes the culture did not carry it forward. So I like the fact that you combine the technical aspect with the people as well as culture. Anything to add?
Well yes. I mean, I think it was an excellent question, so thank you who submitted that. I would have just extended it slightly to make it slightly an even better question, was just how do you accelerate the right digitalization? And that right then means, you know, the things that are going to support your new business strategy. But, you know, I can only stress, as Hugh has done, the importance of lighting fires of enthusiasm across the whole business through cultural change and engaging everybody in the digital journey. We see a lot of insurers that set up digital projects and they create a kind of us and them between the people that are exposed to and involved in the sexy new digital projects, the secret projects, and the rest of the business. And that is very frustrating for the majority of the people in the rest of the business who all want to do better things for customers and have all got good ideas on how they can do that with and without technology. So an absolutely critical thing is finding ways to engage everybody, making them all feel engaged in the journey. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
if I
please
can,
do.
just building on that, I mean, I think I was talking about ChatGPT and generative AI, right? Go and have a look at what AXA has just announced in the last couple of weeks, which is they've been working with ChatGPT on what they call AXA Secure GPT, and their objective is to make that technology available to all 140,000 of their employees. The democratization of technology. And if you imagine, those individuals will start playing, right? The ability to pilot using super powerful technology is now in the hands of everyone. And that's going to lead to an enormous wave of innovation. And it's a major opportunity to embrace digital culture, to use it as a way to get more ideas and more focus and experiment, frankly, at very, very low cost.
That sounds great. Now takes us to the second question, which is very related. Which Southeast Asia countries do you see are more advanced in digital adaptation for life insurance? And what are their key success?
I mean, maybe I'll just pick that up first and declare myself slightly more engaged with North Asia, having been based in Hong Kong for many years. So Hugh's the expert on Southeast Asia. What I can say, though, another good question, I think part of the question here is, well, where is Indonesia relative to other markets? From my perspective, and I think our perspective, there's no market anywhere in the world that's got all this fully worked out yet. There's no insurance company that's fully successfully digitally transformed. So the good news for the local market here is, you know, there's lots to learn, lots still to do, but it's the same with every other market. I wouldn't call any market out personally, but other than say China for ecosystems, but then you guys are pretty advanced on that as well. Hugh.
Yeah, I was going to do that classic thing, which is answer a different question, because I think from an Indonesia perspective, I think you should be looking at China and you should be looking at India, right? Both countries have very large economies, large population, can get economies of scale, can build platform models as well, as we're seeing in Indonesia as well. So I think China has been standout for special reasons that you can't necessarily replicate. India is a great example because it's really got a very strong technological backbone, right? And I think one of the challenges in Indonesia is to get a more technological backbone, right? More people into digital as well, and with digital skills.
Right, so China and India hopefully can come up on top as well, right? As the next emerging technology. Any questions from Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen? One question. Simon has mentioned the long-term period of negative return. What type of conversation the management team should be having? When should they have this conversation?
Well, thank you for that question. It's an excellent one. Let me just answer that firstly by telling a bit of a story, and this story may resonate with some who know even the individual I'm talking to, but one of the big global insurers had a new CEO a few years ago, and they went out, understandably, and said, digital's got to be a top 3 strategic priority for us. It's all about digital, the future's digital. 50, 60,000 members of staff. If you're not involved in digital, you've got to ask what your future is with the company, which was rather blunt. But he mismanaged the expectations around what digital benefits would come and how quickly, in my opinion. And a few years later, the questions started coming. Where is the return on investment? You've spent a fortune, you've done all these high-profile things, and the value's not come back, and that individual's no longer in that organization. So actually, I think that the reason we've developed that chart I was talking about earlier is to help CEOs and CTOs in particular, with their boards, start a conversation around what this journey is going to look like, to manage expectations that the ROI is going to be negative, to point to some of the things I shared around the things they're going to need to do as an executive team to optimize the chance of success, get the permission to invest in culture, get the permission to do some of the other things I mentioned. The other good, so I would say you start as soon as you can. If you're mid-flight, it's still a good time to put that out, because we know companies that have spent over $1 billion on transformation, and they're still not seeing the return, the big numbers to match that investment. And I think that trough of disillusionment is a good message to say to the board, you know what, we're where most companies are going to be, right? The question is, are we going to come out of it? So it's a good visual for even if you're halfway through it and you've been spending money not getting it back. But the real conversation then becomes, well, where are we? Does our curve match that, or are we above, or are we below? Most importantly, what are we doing to make sure we're a winner? And that conversation starts top table with the board to get long-range investment support. And if you've got things like a CTO as the lead sponsor, that needs to change. No disrespect to the CTO, but this effort is beyond technology. It's about the whole organization, and digital and technology is just an enabler to deliver your customer-centric, revised business strategy. And that has all the top team involved. I don't know whether that answers the question, but quite passionate about this.
No, indeed, it is critical point. I like the fact that you're saying to manage the expectation clearly. It will not generate value from day one. It takes time to develop. Definitely, it can be faster when we get the people and the culture on board. Yeah. Maybe can I ask for one last remarks, a closing remarks from you, Simon, and then Hugh, please.
Well, look, I guess I'm still in this industry because I'm a frustrated customer, like many of you, I'm sure, that our industry is so important for the global development of the world. Things like cities need insurance to develop, cultures, nations. We need insurance. We need more insurance, particularly in markets like Indonesia. And technology is a key that unlocks the box of potential to address some of the issues our industry's got. It's the most exciting time I've known in my 30 years in the industry. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. We've shared some of the reasons why it isn't today, but the people that get it, the companies that get it right, I think there's a massive upside here. And actually, from a career point of view, our industry is becoming more interesting and fun because we've got to start working with some of these other more like these other companies, platform providers and customer-centric companies. So yeah, and then I would just re-echo, focus on cultural change as well as your technology projects, reset the strategy first. Hugh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm equally positive. I think, sort of been in the industry for a long time, so you sort of the danger is that you can get sort of stuck in old ways. I think digital keeps you sort of mentally agile and young. But I was looking back at Indonesia, I've been coming to Indonesia probably for 15 or more years, and I just reminded myself of how phenomenal Indonesia's growth has been, right? And GDP per head has moved up over the last 15 years from $1,000 per head to $5,000 per head. And what I would say as a message to that, as a leadership team, don't think of yourself as a country with $1,000 a head and make investment decisions on that basis. Make investment decisions on the basis that you're currently at $5,000 a head, and your goal as a nation, as the Minister was saying earlier, is to get up to probably 3 times that level at least, and that requires investment. And I think you need to have an investment mindset and invest in people as much as technology.
So we need to invest yesterday, not just on the technology as well on the people. Thank you very much for the inspiration. And thank you everyone. And may I invite Bu Elin Wati to come on stage to give the token of appreciation to you, Simon Phipps, as well as Hugh Terry. Thank you very much again. It's been a pleasure. Please give a round of applause to Simon and Hugh.